professors, students who have made their time out of the hectic schedule during these pressing times and be here on this platform. So the fact is that we chose this de-addiction topic that though because we are having coronavirus, and we know that there's a lot of population, at least 2%, 2.7 crores out of 135 crores, that is what the latest statistic says, is doing drugs. And what is worrisome for many people is in this age group. We don't understand till now, the research has not been done that people who are taking these drugs, are they more prone to coronavirus or not? So that is one more aspect, but that is out of the question. But we need to be worried because the way research suggests that the way they are taking drugs is changing during these pandemic times. And that is why we think we need to take proper steps to prevent it, manage it, and recognize when we are going into this deep hole. So with that, I think I welcome our professor in charge, Professor Dang, our Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Dhrubajyoti Sen, Dr. Shetty, who is a psychiatrist and the speaker for this presentation, Professor Ajay Singh, who is the president, Gymkhana, IWG, the student wing group, who have been very active to coordinate these sessions, and the VP, and all the people, all the counselors who have made it and helped us during these times when we were short of our resources. So thank you all, and I welcome Professor Dang to say the relevance of the topic today. Sir, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mondal. And good evening, Dr. Shetty. And obviously on behalf of the Institute, on my personal behalf, on behalf of the Institute, students from Counseling Center. So we welcome, hearty welcome to this session, and we are really thankful that out of your busy schedule, you have accepted our invitation and you have joined. And this particular program definitely will be useful to all of us. First of all, the addictive drugs and the conversation, the title says, and also that including a question that why and what it does. And honestly speaking, I really do not know how the people actually that addicted, because the thing is that as what I understand, that it may be something just for a friends in a group. Somebody can just simply think, okay, just let us have a taste out of it, and maybe it can go. I do not know whatever way it goes, but it's really, I have seen few of my friends also, it's very difficult to come out that one, that how much trouble they take, how much they try to come out of it. So with this particular one, I once again, and definitely it is relevant under this pandemic situation when we are actually not connected much, because I have seen actually that particularly students, when they mail to us, they expect that response within an hour or within half an hour. If they think that we have not responded that mail, then they think that they are lost. That is the situation under this pandemic situation for this almost near 2 years. And so what I used to do, at least I respond, okay, I am looking after it, we have received your mail, we are looking after it, and that one also helped them. So considering that aspect, so now I request Professor Sen to give a welcome note on behalf of the Institute formally. Professor Sen, please.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Professor Dang, and a warm welcome to Dr. Shetty for being with us and addressing our wellness group members as well as the students, and welcome to other faculty members here, Professor Ajay Singh, President Gymkhana, and Mrs. Mandal, and other faculty members who may have joined, and also the students. So I would hand over the mic to Professor Ajay Singh. I think he will say a couple of words. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sen. Okay, my video is available or it is not working? Okay. So let me introduce this speaker. It's a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Harish Shetty, a psychiatrist in profession, who is currently associated with Dr. L.H. Hiranandani Hospital, Powai. Dr. Shetty did his postgraduate degree in psychological medicine and a postgraduate diploma in comparative mythology from Bombay University. He completed his MBBS, DPM and MD from TN Medical College and SET GS Medical College respectively. Dr. Shetty has been working in the field of yoga and mental health over more than 2 decades and has immense experience in various areas of mental health work. He has been associated with several educational institutions across India and has conducted hundreds of workshops for the students, teachers, and staff members. He is also working in the area of suicide prevention. His team includes students, teachers, and parents who have lost their child, and they are training common people to become mental health soldiers. He was appointed as a consultant at the Sevadhan De-Addiction Center and the National Addiction Research Center in 1989 and served both the centers till the year 2000. His petition with the Maharashtra Human Rights Commission to abolish the segregation of students on the basis of marks practice in the school was accepted and the segregation was abolished in the school in the year 2006. His latest petition in the Bombay High Court on learning disabilities has facilitated the starting of Learning Disability Detection Center in every district of Maharashtra. Dr. Shetty has been identified as one of the 17 young mental health workers by the World Health Organization and invited twice for training in the year 1995-1996 respectively. He has also founded Maitri, an organization that works with families affected by mental illness and has been instrumental in training a large number of medical personnel in the field of mental health. Recently, he has created a wellness software course at IIT Dharwad. This has been conducted twice so far at the IIT Dharwad. He has been appointed as a member of NTA, National Testing Agency, by Union Cabinet on behalf of MHRD. So with this, I invite Dr. Shetty to share his experience with us and present his seminar. Thank you.
Screen share.
Yeah, my screen share. Yeah.
I hope Thank you, Professor Dang and Professor Sen, and I sincerely thank Shivam, Juliet, and others for helping me with my video, and I'm so grateful to them. I like what you said, Professor Dang, that kids become very anxious when you do not respond to a mail. When you reply that I have seen it and I will do something about it is a very reassuring gesture during these 2 years of the pandemic. And it has been tough for all of us. I congratulate all those who followed the COVID norms, exercised, did other ways and methods to treat themselves and heal themselves. My best wishes for all those who have suffered. I wish them great recovery across a long time. My sincere condolences to those who have lost loved members, family, loved ones, family acquaintances, and friends. When I take this session, when I start this session, I would like to share one thing.
This session is not only for students, it's for everybody. It's for you, my dear students. It's for your families. It's for your community. It's for your for people of all age groups. And though the focus would be on the young. Before I say anything, I would like to share with my young boys and girls, students across IIT Kharagpur, that remember one thing in your life. Locked minds are time bombs. Diffuse it early, lest it explodes inside you. It's important to understand that you have a beautiful counseling center. I met few of them. I know Debarati, I met Juliet, Rajeshi, and you're so fortunate to have a full-fledged counseling center and a wellness center. So remember one thing, that locked minds are time bombs. Diffuse it early, lest it explodes inside you. Kill shame and seek help. There's nobody on this earth who's not struggling with something at any point of time. Each one of us have our own struggles, and if things go haywire or before things go haywire, please knock the door of the wellness center and meet your dean, your faculties, and your psychotherapist and your counselor. And that, I think, is very, very important. My dear friends, awareness of feelings is extremely important. Well, addiction is not only about addiction. We Indians do not build a vertical structure over any symptom. We do not believe that we need to have vertical structures for environment, vertical structures for addiction, vertical structures for post-traumatic stress disorder, vertical sections for mental health. They're all linked. So what is very important is awareness of feelings is very important. And again, anger is the epitome and the sine qua non symptom we see in a globalized world. Globalization disconnects as people have started working long hours, financial issues, and as people have entered technology, disconnection is one of the most important diseases in the 21st century, and reconnection is the biggest intervention for the 21st century. Anger is seen all over on the streets, in aeroplanes, at different centers. COVID has really created a different environment, but remember, be aware of your anger, and remember, anger is a normal emotion, aggression is an abnormal state. An awareness of anger, listening to the anger will help you to really manage it. And before I start speaking about substance, I would like to help you to understand that awareness of feelings of anger, sadness, fear, joy, jealousy, and love are very important. And then there are two emotions, shame and guilt, which are largely learned. Of course, you need to be aware of your sadness. If you're aware of your sadness and experience it and accept it as normal, the ability to love is better. The ability to be joyous is also better. So accept sadness as normal. Intense sadness, continuous sadness can be depression, and this is also very important. Well, some people will get more marks than you, their grades will shift. You may have been the best in your college when you were in your 12th, but in IIT, once you get into a college where you graduate, medicine, engineering, and others, you're all in the same boat. Each one of you will compete, and marks will go up and down like the marks in the share market. So remember, even if you are very envious of somebody, go and tell him that how the hell did you score more than me when I taught you everything last night? This happened to me all my life, actually. In fact, my auditory memory is very good, and I would listen to my friends and go and answer the papers, and many times I would score more than them. And though they have taught me, and jealousy is a very important emotion, it breaks friendship. It's important to confront it, accept it as normal, and go and meet the friend with whom you're very jealous and say, hi man, what the hell have you done? So this is also a very normal emotion. My dear friends, let's come to the point. These are the latest figures from the government of India. Cannabis, as you know, has been there in the country for 2000 years. The other day, a young engineering student came to me and he was brought to me and he said that my parents are against me because I take cannabis, but I'm doing well in my college. I'm perfectly all right. Doctor, have you had cannabis before? Doctor, will you read these links? Doctor, are you aware that cannabis is approved in many states in Western countries and in Western civilizations? There are cannabis kiosks in Amsterdam, and he told me a lot of things. First thing what we do is we acknowledge the narrative of all those who sit across us on the table. We acknowledge it. I said, I heard him, and I slowly said, perfectly all right, my dear friend. I understand there are three narratives about cannabis today. One is whether it should be legalized, because it is supposed to be only a recreationary drug. Cannabis has a long history of 2000 years at least in the country. And they come and tell me, my student friends, that it has no addiction and it has largely no psychological or physical withdrawal. And as I listen to them, I share information, I share my experience, and I tell them, I sit down and tell them, my dear friend, there are three narratives. One is cannabis should be legalized because it is a recreational drug, it has culture, and it has a long history of use in India. But I would like to remind you, my dear friend, a large number of Indians who are taking it across time. Agrarian economy was the most important economy. And as of now, we are moved from agrarian economy to the more cognitive economy. And for a cognitive economy, you need to see to it that your brain is in perfect condition and is very healthy. Then they also asked me, what do you think about it, Dr. Shetty? I said, it is like this. And then they asked me, have you taken cannabis? I said, once by mistake, I took bhang on a holy day and I was hallucinating. And they said, it's a bad trip. And I said, yes, maybe. But I told them that what I have seen across time is, though there are a lot of people who take cannabis on recreational basis, there are certain things which are very important, and they are that cannabis basically can affect your cognition, can affect your mood, and can affect your behavior. And we had this conversation across time. I said, it's your choice, your life, but this is what is the evidence. And what is very important as mental health professionals is we do not preach morality. We do not preach what is good and what is bad, but we are very open in our conversation, and we share science as my young student friends share their views about cannabis. This slide is self-explanatory. This is the Ministry, Government of India's research, epidemiological research, which was revealed a couple of years ago. Well, for those who do not know, I'm sure you all know this basic bhang is the leaves of the cannabis plant, which can be grown anywhere in your home, in any place. I still remember a secretary of a building coming and saying, there's some plants which are being grown in my complex. What are they? I said, please bring them to me. And I found it was cannabis. It was grown by some students in the building, and the secretary and the president of the housing complex was not aware. So bhang is from the leaves, ganja is from the flowering tops, and hash or charas is the resin which comes from the plant. Ganja or marijuana is from the flowering top. What is very important to understand, as you all know, I would not go into something which is very important. Okay, and this is the slide which I said I believed I shared, and this is the research conducted, epidemiological research conducted by the Government of India. It's freely available, and I just said that I just shared that bhang is the leaf, marijuana and ganja are the flowering tops, and hash is the resin. This is something which I just shared. Tetrahydrocannabinol is the concentrate, and hash contains the maximum. There are male and female plants manufactured, and the resin is secreted in high quantity. Now, again, the other day, there was this 9th standard boy who came to me, and the mom said he's become very aggressive. And perfect family, nothing wrong with them, absolutely nothing wrong with them. And when I sat down, he said nothing wrong. And she also said that his marks have dropped in the 9th standard. And I said, let us do his urine test. And I told him that, let me do your urine test for cannabis. He said, I've not taken anything, but I'm prepared to do the test. He did the test, it was negative because he took somebody else's urine. And after some time, we found it, he was cannabis positive. So what is very important for me, I would like to share with all you friends, that when I really did my MD psychiatry, actually during my course of MD psychiatry, we were trained to believe that people who have substances, forget the addiction, have substances like alcohol, cannabis, or opium largely come from dysfunctional families. And during those days, addiction was associated, or using substance was associated with dysfunctional families, alcoholic parents, mental illness in the family, conflict and violence. But as of now, what is very important for us to understand is a lot of young boys and girls take substance because it's easily available. It's more easily available than chocolates and toffees. So the aggressive marketing across the cities of the country has made this very easily available. So when we see young boys and young girls who take it, there are no psychiatric illnesses. There are just the fact that they have been introduced to it by somebody, and the fact that it's easily available is one important reason. The second important reason is globalization. Globalization has made families move away from each other, stay with the small families. The emotional connectivity, and I would say emotional contact time in the families have gone down. The family contact time has really gone down, and so disconnection and easy availability is like petrol and fire. That is one of the most important. So this boy said, I have taken cannabis, and I asked him, how did you start? He said that there were elder boys in my building who said, don't worry, beta, if anything happens to you, I'm there. Try this cigarette. And they said, this is a different cigarette. That's how he felt good about it, and he continued taking it. Remember, the family was perfect. There was no pressure. There was no stress at all. There was no violence. There was no mental illness. So a large number of people who fall prey to higher use of substance, a large number of people who would want to take substance have no mental illness, and that is very important for us to understand. So this is what happens to the brain, and there are cannabinoid receptors in the brain which gets desensitized if you're continuously taking THC. Now, one more question. I still remember this 50-year-old boy bringing a 21-year-old son to me, and he said he's taking cannabis, he's smoking hash and weed for the last 15 days. I told him to stop, and the boy looked at his father and said he also has been taking for 25 years. And the father said, I've been taking, but I can manage. Nothing has gone wrong. And when I evaluated the entire family, I found that the father was high functioning. And because of his high functioning, he could manage his life. But if he would have not taken chronic cannabis, he would have been highly functional, or more functional than what he was. So sometimes people have been taking cannabis for a long time, claiming that nothing happens to them. That only means that they are basically high functioning and they're able to manage their work somehow, and they have their head above the water and they don't fall on the other side of the fence. And so it is not always true that people who take cannabis for a long time have remained very normal. They would have been functioning much better than what they actually would. And so cannabis users are more likely to live in a distorted reality, and that I think is very, very important for us to understand. People who start smoking early at the age of 16 were found to have underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. Now, as you all know, the use of prefrontal cortex is to discern, is to think, is to look at an issue with the lens of perspective. Prefrontal cortex helps you to think critically and helps you to look at issues with different perspectives. Prefrontal cortex also helps you not to be absolutely emotionally hijacked. Amygdaloid is a part of the brain which really makes you emotionally hijacked. So what is very important is your ability to be cognitive, ability to be extremely broad in your thinking, ability to have insight and judgment is largely in the prefrontal cortex, and that really gets affected. I still remember this young girl. Again, I work around Powai. I work around ITB, and this young girl, 2, 3 girls, and these boys would chill. Now she said, "Doctor, you are from a different generation. When you would chill, you may be having cutting chai, but you would be having alcohol. This cannabis is better than alcohol, doctor. It's safer than alcohol." I don't preach. I don't really tell them what to do and what not. When we have conversations, that's why I labeled this conversation. I'm expecting a lot of questions. I may answer some which I would know and would keep some questions very open, but I would share what science says and what I have seen across time with cannabis. So the girl said, Dr. Shetty, my father is a professor in IIT, and I take it he's not aware, but I don't want you to tell him. You said, please get your parents. I cannot get my parents. What do you think I should do? I said, what are you doing? And she said she's doing a postgraduate course in some other college, not engineering. And she thinks she's perfectly all right. And this is the way you chill. And she said, you guys used to chill with cutting chai, or you guys used to chill with alcohol. We chill with this. Is it wrong? I said, nothing wrong. But as long as you're able to understand and be aware of what cannabis can do. And she said, what? Then I had to share this. I told her, you know what, my dear friend, as a psychiatric resident, as a resident psychiatrist, every year, 3 years, we work during our MD courses. Every year, around the time of Holi, we see a lot of people coming with abnormal behavior, and we have to hospitalize them, treat them, and send them back. She said everybody does not get abnormal behavior. Everybody may not really go bonkers because they take either of the three products of cannabis. I said perfectly all right, but I said it is difficult to pinpoint who will go cuckoo. It's difficult to pinpoint who will have psychosis, and difficult to pinpoint who would actually have complications after cannabis. And then she said, Dr. Shetty, you're very conservative. You have to be open. World is changing. And there has been a big debate across the world on cannabis being legalized. I said, perfectly all right. There are three debates which is happening. One is cannabis can be a gateway drug. That's one stream of thought. Second is cannabis needs to be legalized, because if cannabis is legalized, people might not take higher drugs, so people might not take drugs which are manufactured in labs. And so cannabis is better to be around rather than actually other drugs. And then they gave me history of cannabis, which has been used in tariqat meditation, Sufis, etc., etc. I listened to her with complete respect and devotion. And when I said, it's your choice, my dear friend, completely your choice, but these are the facts as of now. And functioning of the brain is affected by regular use of cannabis. I see a lot of young boys taking it for some time and stopping it later, again taking it for some time and stopping it later. But among the boys between 14 to 18, I see a lot of them being affected by cannabis, because they don't take only cannabis. Cannabis is regular, but during parties or during birthdays, it's not cannabis, it's cocaine. It's not cake, it's cocaine. And then I find them sliding down their academic ladder, sliding down in their ability to be inspired. I still remember this young boy who did his engineering abroad, and and very bright, extremely bright, and he wanted to do PhD abroad, and he stopped at bachelor's, and he's continuously using cannabis and working at a place at an IT place. Intelligent guy. He can manage the job completely well, but his entire aspirational force which he had has been completely compromised, because cannabis or any drug can stop you from aspiring. And that is something which we need to really understand. So this girl, after some time, she stopped coming, and I met her in the market, and I heard that she told me that she's doing her master's now in the same college, not engineering. And then I didn't ask her anything, and she took me aside because she was with a friend. She took me aside and said, I've actually stopped going around with those friends who take cannabis. I now feel that I'm much more alert when I don't take. My dear friends, again, I would say it's your choice. It's your choice. It affects, cannabis affects slowly cognition, ability to think, ability to have a good working memory. It affects emotion, though the elation and euphoria is temporary. It can also affect behavior. It can also affect emotion and feelings, and can cause psychosis. This is a syndrome which cannabis can cause on long-standing and amotivational syndrome. But I found, initially when I worked in the Department of Psychiatry, we would label anybody and everybody who's completely amotivated, as my psychologist friends would know, that amotivation would be flattening of the effect, not being interested in anything. It's different than depression, and inability to actually relate, and inability to actually function in your work. Your cognitive, there's a cognitive disability, there's an emotional disability, and there's complete flat emotion. We call it flat effect. But then I chose to work in a de-addiction center. You know why? I had a lot of bias against alcoholics when I was a young man. Everybody would say alcoholics are bad people, and I carried that block in my PG course, and I would be very not very biased against people who take alcohol, and I had a bias against addiction. So I said I should expose myself to a larger number of people who smoke substance or eat substance or drink substance, and I would understand much better. So I joined this de-addiction centers funded by the government of India, and there I saw all amotivational syndromes are not amotivational syndromes. When they stop the drug for a long time, they come back to normal. When they stop the drug for a long time, this amotivational syndrome can only be depression, which can be successfully treated. But this is one consequence which we need to really look at. So, my dear friends, I know you're going to ask me a lot of questions of cannabis. There has been uh, an attempt by certain sections of people in India, professionals, mental health professionals, etc., to make cannabis legal, and they all believe that it is a recreational drug, it is not harmful, and it is not a drug, it's a herb. That's what a lot of guys come and tell me. So when I look at cannabis, I would like to also say that what is my position about cannabis is this. When you create a policy, you need to look at the context. And what is the context as of now? The context as of now is India is a billion layered sandwich, and there are few layers which are beautiful, few layers are very disturbing, and in this rapid pace of life, rapid social change, the angst of globalization is very big. Let me give you some figures. 1 out of 7 Indians are mentally ill, according to the Government of India, Ministry of Health, 2019. After that, there was no report. And 1 out of 7, that is 200 million people are mentally ill, as compared to 79 million people who have diabetes. I would still add one more fact in front of you. 78,000 people died of tuberculosis, whereas 1.30 lakhs, 1,30,000 people died of suicide in 2019. Then that's a very scary figure. Also, 10% increase in suicides in 2020. National Crime Research Bureau released that entire study, and 10% increase. And one of the most important reasons for suicide has been family problems. 1/3 of people who end their lives are because of family problems. And I would say there's a lot of stress happening inside the family. And so substance and stress is like petrol and fire. So in that context, and also I would want to share that 1 out of 4 people who end their life by suicide are daily wage laborers. So in a context where there is a lot of angst, a lot of social change happening across the country, one cannot be liberal about cannabis. We need to wait till we think through this entire substance, and then probably think about legalizing it. And also the famous sentence by Jane Fonda about alcohol also, or any substances, it should be safe, it should be legal, and it should be rarely available. So availability of the substance and the rapid social change is one of the most important factors for people to take substance, and most of them are not mentally ill. So I'll come to that a little later. Well, this is something you all know. Well, I was given doctor's brandy when I was small, but it has got nothing to do with cold and cough. It has got, this is something which I would like to share. Now, let me talk to you a little technically, my dear friends, boys and girls. Stress in our system is mediated by many axes, but one of the most important axes is hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis. Hypothalamus in the brain, which releases a lot of chemicals, and it stimulates the pituitary gland, which is in the brain, which releases again a lot of chemicals, and that stimulates adrenal cortex. And this cycle is that it goes back to the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, and hypothalamus. Most of the times in stress, what happens is this circuit is broken. In COVID, by the way, my dear friends, every disaster there's increase in substance use. I worked at Latur for 1 year after the earthquake in 93-94. I worked at Gujarat after the riots on the invitation of the then NDDB chief. I worked at the cyclone affected area in Gujarat also in 1998. So a lot of experience in disasters. I have seen that addiction increases after disaster. I mean, and that's also only because probably the only logical reason for the same is the psychological consequence. And my dear friend, let me also say there's a mental health pandemic happening across the country, and so at such point of time when there's a mental health pandemic happening across the country, and we are all affected. I'm also affected. I lost 2 members of my family to COVID. And as of now, there are 10 people in my family who are affected by COVID, but they're all doing well. My mother, my siblings, their spouses, children, nieces, but they're all doing well. So when there is a mental health pandemic, we need to protect one part of a body which is very important is the brain, and so substance around stress is very difficult, very dangerous. So how managing hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis is very important. One of the most important ways of managing this is exercise. Now let me share this video. This is a video by World Health Organization. It's a 4-minute video which every student should see. It's called I Had a Black Dog, His Name Was Depression. It's not whiskey. And this video actually shows evidence-based research which says exercise defeats stress, beats stress. And if in stress, what happens is the hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis goes for a toss, and there's a cortisol rain in the brain. Remember, people who raid the fridges at night and eat a lot, that is because their appetite suppressant hormone is not working and the appetite stimulating hormone is working more. And that happens because you're stressed. Probably even in colleges, because of so many reasons, economic reasons or academic reasons or relationship reasons, which is very common, extremely common. I tell all boys and girls that never die for a guy, and a guy would mean boy or girl, never die for a guy. And I would tell everybody here also, there are many exams worth living for, and there are many exams worth living for, and no exams worth dying for or crying for. There are many guys worth living for, no guys worth dying for or crying for. So stress, beating stress is important to actually stay away from substance. Exercise is something very beautiful. Now, when we look at alcohol, again, alcohol, this is a myth, again, as I said, cold and cough improves appetite. It causes a little acidity in the stomach and does not actually improve appetite. Alcohol enhances sexual function. Shakespeare said it enhances the desire but taketh away the performance. So that is something which is very important to understand, and high risk behavior is much higher when you have a lot of alcohol. Obesity is a common cause. Alcohol improves weight. Again, it doesn't increase weight, but it causes obesity. Alcohol is a sedative. No, it disturbs the sleep cycle, and it's actually not a sedative. It causes fragmented sleep. People who sleep on the road are comatose because of excessive alcohol in the body. Alcohol brings on anxiety. It is an anxiolytic. Temporarily, it brings on anxiety for some time, but it's not something which is very important. Alcohol is good for heart patients. Absolutely rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. White wine, red wine and white. No, not at all. This is also absolute rubbish. And what is very important, alcohol can dissolve the cholesterol in the blood. No, it's not an anticoagulant, doesn't dissolve any cholesterol. Though Winston Churchill said that alcohol and tobacco are the biggest, greatest preservative, because he lived for long and he was smoking like a chimney and also drink. But these people are rare. That's and exceptions don't really make the rule. And this is the statistics of alcohol in the country. So when you look at alcohol and cannabis, 5% of those who actually drink are alcoholics. But the problem is not among the alcoholics. The problem is among the problem drinkers who drink occasionally but drink very heavily. And a lot of violence is seen when people have problem drinking. A lot of accidents, a lot of deaths, a lot of rape, a lot of sexual offenses are seen, and a lot of marital abuse is seen among problem drinkers. Again, a few years ago, 10 years ago, there was a big movement by the Alcoholic Breweries Association. I forget the name of this, but it was a brewery association to equate alcohol as a stress buster. I again tell people, when you're down, don't drink. Never drink when you're down. You will not be able to manage it. And what is also very important is that if you're down and depressed, the chance of you becoming an alcoholic is much higher. Depression and alcohol are cousin brothers. And a depressed person is more attracted to substance than others. So it's very important to understand, when you're down, don't drink. Don't drink. And when you're down, don't take any substance to elevate your mood. Though somebody would argue here that cannabis is being tested as an antidepressant in some countries, which is true. but there's no evidence yet. So I still remember this young man who passed out his engineering, and he was working at a place, and he's married. He was 30s. He was in his 30s, and he would go to his company where he was working, IT company, and he would not come back straight. Okay, and he would go to the bar and then come back home. So his travel was like a triangle, was like a isosceles triangle, no, or an equilateral triangle. I don't know, but he would go to the job, then go to the bar and come back home. And then when he came in front of me, he said, "Dr. Shetty, this is my life. I don't care. This is how all my reports are completely normal." But I told him that the liver starts crying after some time. You might have the liver functions completely normal for a long time till it starts crying. So that would not mean that you are completely normal. And he would say no. Then I started asking him, "My dear friend, tell me more about your life. You know what? When you manage substance issues of substance with people, we don't look at the substance alone, we look at life, because behind a behavior is a story, and behind that story there could be many stories." And he started saying that, "Yeah, I finished my IIT graduation, then I wanted to do M Tech, and I could not go abroad because of my issues with my parents. But suddenly I found that I was feeling a little sad and down. My mood was low, and I did not know, but my mood was low, and my initiative and urge was not there. Then I was introduced to alcohol by my friend, though I have taken it early in college occasionally. And he said, 'Take 2 pegs, you'll feel better.' And he said, I felt much better for a week, and then I felt like continuing it. And he continued. And there we went back. Behind the behavior is a story, and behind the story there are many stories. And then we found that he actually had a mood disorder, which actually required correction then, but nobody looked at it at that point of time. And then what happened actually was that he forgot the cause, and he continued taking alcohol in an increased dose. Well, when I gave him a suggestion, probably, sir, your mood can be elevated by other substance than alcohol, and then the entire triangle became a straight line, and he started going straight and to come back. So sometimes students who have difficulties in studies, in relationships with parents, or they have a clinical depressive disorder, are more prone to substance than the others. In alcohol, there's enough evidence, or a little bit more evidence, to say that some of those who really abuse alcohol a lot have genetic issues of alcoholism, and you find that people in their family have died of alcoholism, and they also have depression in the family. So some, not all, but some have this history of alcoholism. So this is Indian figures: males more than females, and kids above 18, 17.1. The one data I would like to share is those who have taken alcohol under the age of 18 are more prone to become alcoholics as they become adults, because they would access that mood lifter which they have experienced when they were young, and they would actually use it once they are old. So prevalence of alcohol, Chhattisgarh is one of the highest, and Tripura, Chhattisgarh, and Bihar and Rajasthan is the lowest. Again, top 10 states who need them will actually leave that. One more thing about the suicide story which I shared, NCRB figures for 2022. UP and Bihar have one of the lowest suicide rates, though they have one of the highest crime. Now, what is very interesting about it is that suddenly I would jump and say that they don't report suicide. So probably the figures are low because of low reporting. But somebody who is doing PhD in sociology or psychology should land up there and sit down and find out if the support systems, even among the poor, is better. And that is a story for some other day. Cannabis was there in India since 2000 years. Opium came with Arabs. If you read Abu Faisal's book, I forget the name as of now, during Akbar's times, and even Akbar Nama, you'll find that opium came with Arabs. And opium is grown generally in temperate climates. The belt, Rajasthan, UP, and that belt, opium is grown in temperate climate. It cannot be grown in your colony, in your building, or at your place. And when I started my work in the late 80s and early 90s, brown sugar addiction was phenomenal across the country. Let me let me tell you a little more about opium. This is how it looks, and this is the opium which is really removed, taken from the seed, poppy seed in the afternoon time. Let me tell you all the good things about the opium. Well, the painkillers are made of opium. Cough mixtures have codeine. Painkillers like propoxyphene is used in as a medicine, and pethidine again is used as a painkiller. Anesthetic agents are made of opium. So also has is made of opium. But opium, the issue with opium is that as far as addiction is concerned, it is morphine and heroin. And heroin is the white powder. Old Hindi movies, you would see that the cops uh, catch us, pick up a suitcase, stop the person, and tear it, and then they find a white powder stored and smuggled. So the white powder in an impure form is known as brown sugar. If you look at the cultural significance of opium. During the Gujarat, during the earlier days, much before independence, the Charans in Gujarat would sing praises of the king, and they would take opium in the liquid opium, and they would really drink it, and uh, and 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 also opium was chewed, eaten, and for a very long time in the country across the temperate belt of the country. But when in the 70s, in the late 80s, what happens? The Golden Triangle is the Eastern Triangle, Burma and other two countries, and the Golden Crescent, Pakistan, Afghanistan. A lot of drugs came into a country, and brown sugar reached all the cities to an extent that the UNDP started 500 centers across the country. The other day, and it then slowly it went down because with all the centers and all the activism by Sunil Dutt, actor Sunil Dutt and others, the use went down. But in the last few years, brown sugar has picked up again. Other day, I was sitting with a young boy. I'll tell you what, my dear friend, the poor are affected by substance much more than you guys. The young boy from a slum, he's been taking brown sugar. Forcibly, his mother brought him to me, and he sat down. He said, "I want to stop it, but I cannot stop it." And when the effect of the drug is very severe, when the withdrawal symptoms are extremely severe, you need to give a medical substitute to see to it that he tides over the entire crisis. Cannabis addiction may not need any medicines unless the person is not sleeping. But with opium, the withdrawal symptoms are very severe. Opium actually yeah, sorry. Uh, so the heroin and the brown sugar. And brown sugar is really bad. It's actually it causes a lot of withdrawal symptoms like watering of the eyes, watering of the nose, piloerection, restlessness, anger, and to an extent that the person is so agitated when he stops the brown sugar, and he actually can steal, can do anything. The withdrawal symptoms are so severe that they run and get the brown sugar somehow, and the brown sugar is heroin. And so this boy was sitting there, and we had a long chat. And as we had a long chat, he said that he wanted to stop, but he could not stop, and very poor. And he told me that there are 25 boys in that locality, all poor. The mothers are either working in somebody's homes, or they're actually doing other things. And as they said all this, I was extremely upset, and we sat down with him for a long time. And when we listened to him, he came again, and he did not stop immediately. But when we gave a substitute, buprenorphine, he slowly stopped, and that I think was very important. As he stopped slowly, we were able to really help him, and that really was important, and he's coming to us even now. A lot of these boys and girls were treated earlier in hospitals, but as of now, cost of care is very high. So the poor would try and get help inside their own homes. And so the buprenorphine is a very good drug which blocks the opiate receptors in the brain, but does not cause any withdrawal, and does not cause any harm. And buprenorphine is also made of opium. Current use is like this, more of males, and that's again not important. Most important states are UP, etc. Well, it is actually chased, and that's how it is. Now, a lot of truck drivers and others eat opium, and there's an NDPS Act which covers the use of drugs, and also governs the punishments to those who have substances beyond the regular margin, and NDPS Act is extremely important. There's a license for anybody to procure opium. Very important is that the plant is less harmful than the extract. I still remember Edwin Massey, a very senior researcher, was working with me long ago, said that the people who have opium are brought by their sons. They become dysfunctional much later, where the people who have brown sugar are brought by their fathers. So extract, the chance of being affected is much higher. This is how it looks. It contains 20% of the substance, much cheaper. This is how it's used, and that's how it is. Now let's talk about cocaine. Again, coming back to drugs, cocaine came to India between the two world wars, and this is again used by people who can afford the substance. We get a lot of young men and young women who take this. A lot of them actually belong to higher echelons of the party, higher echelons of the society, and a lot of them take cocaine. Either they snort it, or they inject it, or they smoke it. And what is very important to understand is that the rave parties basically are cocaine parties, and girls who have been taking weed and hash regularly. They have cocaine as a special gift during the birthday parties. Cocaine addiction is not easy to treat, and why is it not easy to treat? Because the addiction is very severe. There's a lot of problems. It's powerful. It has effects on the heart, brain, and emotion. It travels to the blood. It affects the whole body. Heart rate, blood pressure may cause a heart attack, and can cause sudden kidney failure. We have a politician who died of overdose of cocaine, and overdose of cocaine can actually affect. In fact, all the drugs impair sexual function. Let me tell you. I mean, yeah, maybe one finds a high initially, but slowly sexual functions are affected. Meth and mephedrone, white powder, is very popular in the country now. Again, if you have seen Breaking Bad, the serial, you would understand what meth is. MD is mephedrone. They're very powerful. I still remember. I have a very easy metaphor to explain to you how is it affected. Now, if somebody says my son comes very late at home and he says there's a birthday party all the time, he is taking cannabis. But if somebody says I will stay in my friend's house and I'll come tomorrow morning, and most of the time it is coming home in the next day, or not coming for 2-3 days, they're either taking methamphetamine or they're taking mephedrone, and both are manufactured in the labs. Synthetic substance cause a lot of euphoria, loss of weight, death also, sudden death, and we see a lot of LGBT people smoking a lot of meth, and we see an increase in the HIV incidence with people who take a lot of meth and MD, because high-risk behavior is more prominently seen when one takes meth, because you lose rational thinking and you become impulsive. You also become emotionally hijacked, and that is so important. Well, the adverse effects are so many, and well, this LSD is again lysergic acid, and it is really blotting paper, and it is used like that, and this is how it is used, and I would not go into it much, but causes a lot of increased temperature. People who take cannabis occasionally say they want to try other substances, and with LSD, there's panic attacks are very common seen. And what is one paradoxical thing about substance which I would like to share is cannabis people don't come to us very easily, but when they take meth, their help-seeking behavior improves and they come to us much faster. If they take MD, they come to us much faster. And if they take LSD also, they come to us much faster because the psychiatric symptoms are seen much more, and the withdrawal symptoms are very, very severe. MDMA is again ecstasy tablets. Other day, I had a young boy who was doing his hospital management in UK. And then he was taking 7 to 8 pills of ecstasy. He came back on a holiday and he said that he would not want to take any medicines for this. He would not treat himself at all with this. And I promised the father that I will not give him any medicine. Please ask him to come and see me. And he told me he should take 7 to 8 tablets of MDMA. Again, amphetamine, derivative, and also a stimulant. This causes a lot of euphoria, but anything which causes a lot of euphoria causes a lot of withdrawal symptoms. So he came to me and said, Doctor, I will not take any medicines. Remember, my dear friends, cannabis may improve without any medication, just symptomatic medication. But when it's opium, or when it is severe alcohol, or when it is ecstasy or meth, it's so important to understand that they actually need medication. So he said he will not take any medications, and he left. I was trying to build a rapport with him by not giving medication. But that day he left the house. He went to a hotel. He SMSed his father that he's going to jump down from the hotel. I knew that he was going to look for ecstasy in Bombay. He did not get it because of what's happening around in Bombay, COVID, etc., etc. And from there he SMSed his parents, I'm going to jump down. I had to alert the police so that they could track his phone. But then he said, I love my parents. I will come back. And he begged of his parents that please find out where I can get this medication. The father said, we'll take you to the doctor. And when we gave him the substitute, which is also a stimulant, but not as harmful, his withdrawal symptoms came down, but he needed hospitalization. A lot of people who take meth, etc., need a lot of hospitalization. That is how it is. Dear friends, as I stop, I just would like to share inhalant use in India is very common. It's largely in the streets, among the slums. But I remember a story. I still remember this Professor Shen shared my resume and said that I filed the case against schools in Bombay for segregating children based on marks. And I'll tell you why I filed the case. I found a bunch of kids in a very conservative place in Mumbai inhaling glue, inhaling petrol, and I was surprised because remember, addiction is not a medical phenomenon, it's also a sociological phenomenon, which is very important for us to understand. When I went there, I found that they were from a division which was in the hierarchy of intelligence according to the school. Remember, school does not test your intelligence, it tests only your memory. And these boys, boys' school, they felt very marginalized, very, very discriminated, and they said, we will take this. And then suddenly the bunch of boys started taking inhalant. And when we went and talked to the school teachers, that the most important issue is estimates, not anything else, they relented. My dear friends, depression is a common illness, much more common than cold and cough, and it's not visible. So if you feel low for any reason, if you feel so for any reason, if you feel hopeless, worthless, just because you can't talk English properly, or just because you come from a particular community, or just because you are shy, or just because you belong to one state or one place, or just because you have low marks, or because of any other reason. Remember, if you feel sad, low, have a lot of crying spells, feel hopeless, worthless, I don't belong here, lack of sense of belonging, the first thing you need to do is talk to your wellness center. Your parents may not understand you because they don't understand this. Mental awareness is very, very poor. And when you are down and depressed, the chance of you going to substance is very high. And then when you come to a doctor or a psychologist, you see somebody who's addicted to substance, but the reason was somewhere you're very low, somewhere very sad, you could not manage yourself, you just could not feel like attending the class. COVID, there's a lot of financial, lot of issues. Let us make it visible by really talking to our counseling centers. Depression is very cunning. It can come in many disguises. One is excessive pain, just pain, excessive tiredness, lack of concentration. I would read 10 pages in half an hour. Now I can't read one page in 10 hours. And apart from feeling hopeless, worthless, wanting to harm yourself, this is important. My dear friends, if anybody talks about harming oneself or yourself, don't give any counseling. Immediately get to your dean, immediately get to your faculty and the counselor. And remember one thing, my dear friends, IITs are very generous, and inclusivity is a part of the IIT philosophy. And the way they handle the exams, they can give different exams, they can give exams a little later, and the way the faculty really looks at depression is very, 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 very interesting across the last few years. So it can come in many, many disguises. Excessive exhaustion can also be depression. With this, I stop and we open the sessions for questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I would now like to ask Shrutika if she's here to take up questions from students. And Teresa, if you can help her from the IWG group. Teresa, are you there?
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, Shrutika, please carry on.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. This is Shrutika, and I'm a student member at IWG. So we circulated a.
Hi. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Yeah.
So basically, we circulated a Google form along with the poster, and we have a few questions from the student community as well as student members at IWG. So, like, I would begin with some of them.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, a mild amount of drugs can be taken as a source of entertainment or recreation. But there comes a stage when one gets addicted. So how to exactly identify the addiction at a very initial stage and prevent ourselves from the.
Yeah. So very good question. See, it is like this. We all have our mood lifters and our mood shifters, isn't it? And it's built across life. Like, for example, I started singing very early in my life. Not that I sing very well. I started reading very early. I started going out and chatting. Conversation is one of my most important mood lifter. Going and meeting my friends. We all have safe spaces. No? We have safe spaces like our friends who are very old childhood friends. And so we use the mood lifters which has evolved across our life, in the sense that when we are down, we'll use the old mood lifter. But if we have been using substances very recreationally and you felt very good, the chances of you using that mood lifter is very, very strong. If you're prone to mood swings, if you're prone to depression, if you have a very difficult family. So if you are taking a drug, a recreational drug, and suddenly you find yourself not attending classes very often, suddenly you find yourself your grades are slowly dropping, suddenly you find yourself fighting with people without reason and arguing with people without reason, suddenly you find yourself that your sleep cycles are, well, in IT, sleep cycles always are difficult because you really study late. But when there is a change in your functioning with your family and in your studies, don't wait till you go down. Go and really put all the cards on the table. Kill shame, seek help is the most important philosophy for all of us. खानदान की इज्जत मिट्टी में नहीं मिलेगी भाई. खानदान भी मिट्टी में मिलते, इज्जत भी मिट्टी में मिलती. नो खानदान की इज्जत. लोग क्या कहेंगे, माँ क्या कहे, माँ को मत बताइए, जाके अपने काउंसलिंग सेंटर में जाके बात कीजिए. Extremely important. Say I'm losing control of myself and I go back. And also when you take substance, ask yourself, whether you have a strong family history of substance, strong family history of psychiatric illness. Have you had hallucinations anytime when you've had a substance? I would fold my hands and say that I am scared to touch cannabis because it can really make you cuckoo, and which coconut will crack is something which I do not know. So these are the reasons where you need to really knock the door of a friendly counselor in your center before your grades drop, before your functioning drops, and before you really become dysfunctional. Don't wait till you hit the rock bottom, as the Alcoholic Anonymous people say. go and seek help much early. And if each one of you will not respond to substance in the same manner, which is something which is very important. Don't look at your friend, वो तो बहुत साल से ले रहा है, उसको कुछ नहीं हुआ, मुझे भी कुछ नहीं होना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं है, हर एक का भेजा अलग है, हर एक का जीन्स अलग है, हर एक का environment अलग है, हर एक का family अलग है. So that is very important. Thank you for the question. Nice question. Now, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So the next question we have is what to do when we feel like taking drugs, at least alcohol or cigarette, when in stress or anxiety. How to cope up with it and not get into bad habits.
Yeah, I would say that stress and alcohol are like petrol and fire. So why we take substance. I still remember when I was in 10th standard, we had 165 ml of alcohol and 14 people took it just because to feel that we have taken alcohol for the first time and nothing happened. I think the best thing is when you really have stress and when you have nobody to talk to and your friends say, come on, yeah, take a drag. Let us score. That's the time to ask yourself, where did this stress come from? Did I not sleep for a long time? Is my mother really very sick? Has my father lost his job? Did they shout and scream at me? इसीलिए तुमको IIT भेजा है क्या? And then there is this counselor Didi in the college. If you have a faculty, a favorite faculty whom you can really hold her hand. What did I do with this boy? I have seen Brown Sugar Addicts for Life, but the boy, we listened to him, even active listening increased brought down his stress and he took help. So it's important to go behind the stress, look at what's happening, and really learn to resolve it. At the same time, learn skills of coping from your mental health professionals and your faculties. So many faculties, mentors are so nice, and then you would be able to manage the stress, similar stress better. So stress is an opportunity to learn coping, improve your resilience. And Shrutika, Katak Varte. So this is what it is. It increases your resilience, and that I think is so important. So maybe if at times if you really find yourself so nice and so good after having substance, fine. But talking to your friends also really brings down a lot of stress. अरे यार, इस बार का grade छोड़ यार, पिछले बार मुझे भी ऐसा. And talking to friends really is a very big support also. A lot of stressors can be managed by talking to friends. I know friends shouldn't make fun of anybody, but at the same time, humor also is very good. In fact, I still remember my son saying, Daddy, I want to experience the zero in school. And he really kept the entire paper empty and came back and said, I want to experience zero. So laughter, finding the reason, friends, and if things don't work, your faculty and your counselors who will help you deal with the stress, teach you coping skills, which will be of use to you in the future.
Okay, sir. So like we have another question. It says, how can we help drug addicts? What are the exact changes that take place in the body due to intake of drugs? And why do some people get addicted to drugs while others don't?
Yeah, very good question. Well, no addict is a bad person. Addiction is a problem. They are not bad. They could be sad. What is very important is, very, very important, somehow enter into a conversation, see to it that he reaches somebody who can help him or her. And conversation is very important. Sometimes they don't go to anybody, but sometimes they say, तेरे लिए मैं एक बार जाऊंगा. तूने बताया ना मैं एक बार जाऊंगा. तेरे खातिर मैं एक बार जाऊंगा. And even if they start treatment, they stop it. Be with them till they actually seek proper treatment, and that is very important. Maybe as friends you can help a lot, but sometimes you may also get very drained and strained and stressed yourself. So important that you connect them to a very sensitive, compassionate professional who is not really interested in big money and really puts his heart and soul into the person. Sometimes only meeting a person and taking some form of medications or counseling therapy may not help. Sometimes you need to give a break to that person because it's sometimes chemical dependence is not easy to treat with psychotherapy, counseling, or medications on outdoor basis. Sometimes we need to give a break. I admitted this guy, which I've just said, was taking ecstasy to a center. I pushed him to, and there also he said, I'll run away here, and we had to really inject him, calm him down. After the withdrawal symptoms go away, his brain will come back to reasonably normal, and then we can speak to him and go and understand him much better. So, friend, conversation, therapy, doctor, and rehab centers. Well, all drugs have different impact on the body based on your resilience of the body, based on your health status, based on the amount of substance you have taken, and based on the frequency of the substance. It can affect all organs. Alcohol affects liver. The synthetic drugs can affect all organs. Cannabis generally affects the brain as well as the lungs. So that's how it is. And if you go early, your organs can be repaired to a great extent. And if you go late, you might come back with a physical disability. Some people get addicted and some people don't. There are reasons. People are impulsive, very, very impulsive. They want pleasure all the time. They can't wait for their turn. Those who are hyperactive and impulsive are more prone to be becoming addicts, number one. Those who are very slow and depressed are more prone to become addicts. Those who are shy and introverted and have lack social skills can become addicted to substance or even addicted to games. At times, there's a family history of addiction, which is also very important. Mental illness can hide under the the mask of addiction. So there are different reasons for different people getting addicted. I still remember I smoked few cigarettes when I was in 12th standard, and I offered a cigarette to a friend. We both entered MBBS. The friend whom I offered the cigarette could not stop for 25 years, but I didn't continue after my 12th. And then we analyzed it, we found that he had a dependent personality, and that also was very responsible. Also, he was very anxious. People who are very anxious can take substance very regularly to bring down their anxiety, and they also can get actually addicted. But as of now, anybody can get addicted because availability of the drug is so big. There's a lot of disconnection and there's a lot of angst everywhere. Job milega kya hoga age? Can I go up? A lot of angst, and that can really increase. Anybody can get addicted.
Okay, so I can understand. Like I understood your saying. So we have another question. So how would you suggest people to deal with withdrawals?
Very good. They said cold turkey nahi karne ka. Cold turkey is facing the withdrawal in the room. यार मुझे जूस ला के दे, तो खाना ला के, थोड़ा फल ला के, यार मैं यहीं बैठ के सब करूंगा. नहीं, it might really be very dangerous. Sometimes withdrawal can cause epileptic fits. It can cause bleeding. It can cause fallen BP. Good to get hospitalized for a few days and get over your withdrawal, and that I think is very, very important. And so a lot of people who would take the help of a doctor, that's much better. Cold turkey would be very dangerous. Also, a lot of people who take alcohol are 100 times prone to harm themselves by suicide than others, and that is a very important data.
Okay. So, sir, this is a really important question now. Especially for college students, it's like drugs and addictives are so common in colleges. One prepares oneself not to do it before joining the college, but peer pressure and other surroundings force them to do so. Some say no, but others are not very comfortable in saying no and eventually fall into the trap. So how to prepare ourselves mentally to not fall for it?
Yes, absolutely. दोस्त ने कहा तो एक कश ले लो यार, एक ही कश लेना, तो दोस्त के खातिर हम ले लेते हैं. Well, the ability to say no, in the words of Amitabh Bachchan in Pink, I think Pink, no means no in a different context. Explore yourself. How is your self-esteem? Are you accepting your body exactly? There are 5 main variables which make our esteem. One is, do we accept our body exactly as it is? A lot of young boys and girls have this issue with the body. यार थोड़ा ऊपर वाला थोड़ा ऊंचा करता मुझे, यार थोड़ा कलर थोड़ा चेंज करता है, नाक थोड़ा लंबा करता है, यार this the day when you accept your body exactly as it is, a lot of freedom is something which, and I give this exercise to everybody. I tell Shrutika, you can never be Aishwarya Rai, Shrutika, but Aishwarya Rai can never be you. God is a champion of diversity. Different samples he creates, and each one is beautiful. So the day when you accept your body exactly as it is, you understand that how you feel defines how you look, and whatever you are, whatever height, whatever length, whatever color, your cheeks will shine and your eyes will glow. So accepting your body. Look at the mirror and talk to God. Yeah, fight with God like Amitabh Bachchan fought in Diwar, but still say that, yeah, bana yaar, theek hai. One of the most beautiful creations of the universe is a human being. So that is number one. Number two, are you okay with your peers? मैं अंग्रेजी फाड़ बोल सकता हूँ क्या? मैं आंध्र प्रदेश का हूँ क्या? मैं महाराष्ट्र का हूँ क्या? मैं पंजाब का हूँ क्या? मैं बंगाल का हूँ क्या? Am I ashamed of my language or interpersonal skills? No. Then perfectly. Number three, am I peaceful inside? Is my awareness good? Am I aware of my feelings, thoughts, sensations reasonably well? Do I practice some form of meditation? Yoga is very cool. Vipassana is very, very cool. Do I do a little of pranayam once in a while? Americans are doing it. Americans have told the armies to do it, and then gives you. Is there equanimity and samanta? Buddha said samanta, Gautam Buddha said samanta and equanimity. And then you'll find your self-esteem is there. Number four, are you able to seek help whenever in crisis? Because we are not superhuman. I also take help when in crisis. There's the fourth one. The fifth, very important, is, am I learning from my mistakes that I don't repeat my mistakes again? And then the power to say no is very good. Why do they don't say no? Se kharab lagega, I will lose this group, I will lose my friends, they'll make real fun of me, I can't do it. No. When you say no without being morally righteous, then it's perfect. I still remember my friend Premashish Haldar. He would sit down with all the boys who used to take alcohol, and he would be not judgmental about them. He would be comfortable doing what he did, and he cracked the same jokes and he enjoyed. And he didn't judge anybody. And then after saying no, we made fun of him for some time, but then after that, we understood that he is comfortable with himself. And so saying no requires a lot of understanding of yourself. It is a risk because you feel you really lose your friends. No, you will not lose your friends. They'll accept you because once your eyes shine and the cheeks glow without substance, they'll find isme kuch hai khasiyat. And if you can't say no sometime, remember, for fever we take crocin. For stomachache, we take anti-spasmodic, and for the mind, you seek the help of the mind gurus in your college.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I hope I am capable enough to say no as well.
Well, Shrutika, you have by saying that am I capable, you have started. Kharats kela suru, huh?
Yes, sir. This is another question. So, why do people think that resorting to substance is a better way of coping than talking to someone? So, and is talking and counseling, does talking and counseling give the relief instantaneously as much as the drugs do?
Well, the ability to share your feelings, the ability to go and seek help also comes from a family. In fact, if you're coming from a very autocratic family or very family which is very traditional and feudal, where there's one person who decides everything, जो पिता कहते हैं वही ब्रह्म वाक्य है, जैसे हिंदी में कहते हैं ना, then and you're not scared to really share, which means I would like to share one thing. In families where they can't share bad news, children could not share bad news. अरे मैं फेल हो गया मम्मी, कुछ क्या करो, फेल हो गया. अरे मम्मी मैंने आज homework नहीं किया और मैंने टीचर को फूल किया. And if you do not have the environment where you could share bad news early, you are not able to share your feelings in your college. But human beings, you can correct your software anytime in life, at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100 also. So once you understand that this is a difficulty, that I can share my feelings, then you start sharing little feelings with the parents on the phone. Mommy, when I was small, I still remember the time when you really took care of me when I had fever, and then start sharing little positive feeling, easy to share and then when you share little positive feeling, then you slowly have the courage to share difficulties also with your counselor. So that you have to start. So sharing difficult issues of life, sharing difficult emotions or thought is very important. And if you do not have the habit, you have to start now. Now, is counseling, will counseling give you a high like cannabis? No. No. Counseling will give you stability. Cannabis will give you ecstasy. And the ecstasy, once it falls, you go down the dumps. Counseling can give you coping skills. Cannabis cannot give you any coping skills. Counseling will improve your state of equanimity. Cannabis cannot. So counseling is a slow process which builds your software for future struggles and makes you more resilient than what you are. So counseling gives you equanimity, not ecstasy. Drugs give you ecstasy, and again you again go down the drain with those drugs. But counseling gives you equanimity, slowly and gently. And if you want really euphoria, play a sport. Help somebody during your odd hours in your class. If you find some students not coping with any subject, those really sit down and assist and help other subjects also get a high, and that high is more powerful than the high of any substance.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We have one last question here. It is, can watching movies or shows or using social media extensively call drugs as well?
Absolutely. In fact, let me trace the history of students in IITs. Long, long ago, the hostels were full in the verandas. Students would be there in the verandas. Then came computer strike and the laptop. And then the rooms were locked, and all the students, including in my college, in my medical, everybody was with this laptop and WhatsApp and inside his room playing Counter Strike, to an extent that one of the IITs stopped the internet connection for some time in one night long ago. Then came a lot of games, Counter Strike and Minecraft and a whole lot of games. So gaming addiction is as bad as cocaine. As bad as cocaine. What happens in the brain is similar. And what happens along with that is sleep deprivation. And sleep deprivation is worse than insomnia. Not being able to sleep is not as bad as sleep deprivation. When you deprive your sleep, तुम भेजा से पंगा लेते हो भाई, भेजा पलटवार करेगा, भेजा पलटवार करेगा, and at the right time the brain will stop during exams and other times. And what is very important for us to understand, that games is as bad as substance. If you play extensively, full night, 12 hours, 15 hours, that is as bad as addiction. So please regulate your gaming habits if you have, and healthy gaming is important. It helps you to kill time. But remember, playing with your hands and legs is much better than playing with your fingers. So sleep deprivation as a consequence of substance or as a consequence of gaming addiction, Netflix के बेगमों को देखने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. Do it with real good boundaries. And remember, in your life, protect your brain. This 1200 grams of brain which God has given equally. God is very secular, doesn't believe in caste, creed, and language. Protecting your brain in the 22nd century is more important than actually 21st century is more important than doing anything else. So games, excessive gaming, sleep deprivation is as bad as cocaine or any other drugs. We have to hospitalize some young boys and girls because they play 15 hours and they beat up their parents. They can't stop. So we need to separate them from the games for some time till they calm down. Then we can treat them. Very rarely, but very rarely.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I guess that was these were the questions we got from the community, like through the Google form. So if anyone, I guess that's it from my end.
Excuse me. Hello.
Gajila is asking a question.
Yes,
Gajala
sir.
Rahman.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, no country will encourage people to take drugs, but
Yes.
in Spain, the drugs are legal. So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
interested in knowing the reason.
Yes, in Canada also, in some parts of Canada, British Columbia, you can carry some amount of drugs with you, and so certain countries do have. But legalizing substance would not mean that we need to look at freedom, choice, but we need to look at the context and the culture of this place. In a place where you make everything available, the chances of them being misused is very high. We need to have a lot of debate on this till we understand whether we should legalize. In Canada, they have, in some parts they have legalized the medicinal use, and some parts they are very, very liberal. I don't know whether that will be applicable to our context. Though cannabis has been there for a very long time. As far as alcohol is concerned, we had indigenous alcohol which was banned by the British, and they brought Indian-made foreign liquor, IMFL, which is known as whiskey, rum, etc., etc. So a lot of asavas being made by fruits in India, which have been used. Charans should use opium a little, because opium was not as bad as the extract, and opium you can still procure a license. I don't know, sir. I don't know. We need to really look at it. But as of now, in this context, I would not support any legalization. Thank you for the question, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm student, sir, not sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, you are, in my practice, my teachers said that every student or every patient is a god, and every class is a temple. So that's how I do. Thank you, Gajala, Rahul Reddy. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So I think Jay Singh has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, you talk, as you said, some drugs like those cocaine or ecstasy named, and games give us, supreme ecstasy that we are not able to detach ourselves from it. So, is there a way to generate our self-made ecstasy?
Yes.
Or
Yeah. Well, oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, and noradrenaline are released when you do a lot of exercise. Neeraj Kumar, when he took the gold medal at the Olympics, I saw his face ecstatic. When Apeksha Fernandez took her gold medals at age of 15 as a national women's and junior championship in swimming, I saw ecstasy in her eyes. So when you really do a lot of, when you really help a friend in dire distress, and when he looks at you in the eyes, there's ecstasy. So there are many such events which can cause ecstasy and euphoria, which is not pathological, which is healthy, and healthy ecstasy can be obtained by exercise, music. When I see Ustad Zakir Hussain on the tabla, I can see his ecstatic eyes. When I saw the great percussionist who died some time back, I forget his name, his last concert in the United States of America, 2 weeks prior to him died, there's ecstasy in his face. When I finish an article which I read, I feel ecstatic. When I take care of my children, I feel very ecstatic. When my patient improves, I feel not euphoric but ecstatic, and excessive euphoria and ecstasy is not really appropriate all the time. Balance is very important, but there are million ways of achieving prayers. Some people pray and they feel so ecstatic. So there are million ways apart from the substance. But pathological ecstasy you can get with drugs. Thank you for the question, sir.
Sir, you called the million ways. Sir, for these things, I think we need to appreciate everything that we have around us.
Absolutely.
Everything, every small bit.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Jay Singh. And in fact, the appreciation starts from a family. We should appreciate our father's job, about the small scooter which you have, the small house if you have, the small table where you studied, and even the little things which your mom has done or your dad has done, and really appreciating that also gives you a lot of ecstasy. In fact, sharing childhood memories with your parents now, what they have done for you on the phone when you're far away, makes them feel that you are next to them, and that's also ecstasy and euphoria. Thank you. Beautifully said, Singh. I completely agree with you.
Whereas these times, it's a bit difficult to, we are overall loaded with our own stuff. Like if we talk about our college work or anything, we are loaded with our own demands. So it's very difficult to put our concern on other things and appreciates.
I have written 2 articles on the same recently. I'll share it with Debarati, Juliet, and others. Maybe they can pass it on to you. every era has its problems and every era has to find solutions. Micro ecstasy or micro joys or micro pranayama also builds and keeps our mood alive, awake, and very resilient in the most difficult crisis. Let me share my own example. Last 2 years, when there was this pandemic, though I lost two people in my family, I never stopped a single day of my work, not from home, actually in the hospital and my clinic. So, and that gave me a lot of satisfaction because people said that you came for us. You did not sit at home, in spite of the fact that everybody said you should do online. That gave me a lot of joy and ecstasy. And when I went to the house of a drug peddler and I told him that it's not nice that you're doing this, because all peddlers generally are those who are users and they peddle because they would want to use. And he said, nobody has come to me directly and said this. I said, me and my friends would want to share this very directly with you, and if you have any problem, we'll really help you solve the problem. So भैया, Jay, I agree with you completely. बहुत दबाव है हमें, बहुत दबाव है सर पे, एकेडमिक्स का, आगे का, शादी का, माँ बाप का, लोन लिए होंगे अपनी 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 पढ़ाई के लिए, बट फिर भी हंसने का मौका नहीं खो, फिर भी थोड़ा थोड़ा खुशी छीनने का मौका खोने का नहीं। जय जी, मैं वो 2 आर्टिकल बेचता हूँ, मेरे पास सब उत्तर नहीं है, हाँ सब उत्तर, पर मैंने कुछ विचार बांटे हैं, वो मैं जरूर जूलियट से, एंड आई विल शेयर इट विद देवरती, माय वेरी क्लोज फ्रेंड, and probably they can share, and if you need to really ask me, Devabrati will share my email ID and we can talk on this again in the future. Thank you for provoking me, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Jason, do you want to ask something else?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Okay, so I think we are coming towards the end of the session, but
One
before
more
that,
question.
There is
one more.
अथर्व ने पूछा है शायद, अथर्व पूछना है, अथर्व ने अभी पूछा था।
अच्छा, मुझे पता नहीं, सॉरी
नहीं ठीक है सर।
Good evening, sir.
अथर्व is asking, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, अथर्व, बोला।
Sir, I have a question. So, what is the easiest method to withdraw from any kind of addiction for any age group?
The 3 easiest methods: play a lot of sports, and laugh. And humor is a very powerful stress breaker. Number 2, exercise. Number 3, do some form of meditation, any form. It could be tasbih, it could be the rosary, it could be it could be Shambhavi Mahabudra, it could be whatever, but for 15 minutes a day. And number 4, when you feel in real trouble and shit, see that you talk to somebody. And number 5, evening time is the most dangerous time. Structure an evening so that you can actually be occupied, because being boredom is also a very important reason for substance. Evening time is also one of the most important for substance. Being lonely is also very important to substance. So if you can do these things continuously, your need or desire to stop substance will go. I'll tell you, in this month, from Jan 1, I stopped my sugar completely. I used to eat a lot of chocolates and a lot of things without reason. And 3 days were difficult. 4 days was also difficult. Even now, when I see something in my house, I feel. But some amount of mind control also is very important. That's the last method. But the earlier 5 methods is very important. Humor helps you really feel good, and a large number of us don't feel. And being loved, which is also very important. If you feel being loved, and if you love your family and your loved one, and if you experience love, you don't feel like having a substance. Thank you, Atharva. आनंद झाला तुमचा प्रश्न ऐकून. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can you hear me?
निष्कल प्रकाश, पूछिए ना.
Sir, so you were talking about gaming, no, sir? Actually, I'm badly hooked in that. So the thing is, I'm actually doing computer science, and the urge to resist, playing the games while doing your work, it's very difficult. So 15-16 hours pass by and you don't even realize when where the time goes, and you're just sleeping and you wake up and again 15-16 hours goes by. And so basically I need the computer for my work, but I can't stop myself from starting that application or that game, and time just goes away.
Are you in a
So,
hostel or are you
what
at
do
home?
you suggest? Like, how
Are you
can
in
I
a,
build more resistance?
are you in a hostel or are you at home?
So hostel.
अच्छा हॉस्टल में हो ना तो बहुत अच्छा बहुत सुंदर है तो
Yes,
क्या
sir.
डिफिकल्ट होता है इसी व्हाट हैपेंस व्हेन यू लुक एट व्हाट्सएप टाइम फ्लाइज व्हेन यू प्ले गेम्स टाइम फ्लाइज so three things which you can do immediately is probably enter into a deal with your counselor, keep a clock and let your friend stop you after a few hours. Maybe if you're doing 15 hours, if you're stopped after 5 hours for a week, and then you'll feel very restless, and see that your phone and your laptop is locked for 7 hours at night. And you can do that slowly. 15 hours is something which is sometimes a little not so easy to really get away. So I would strongly suggest, and I really appreciate you asking this question in a public platform. Huh? I congratulate you for asking this question on a public platform. It really helps so many who are quiet. And the second most important thing is all phones and laptops need a bedroom. In my family, we have locked all phones at night. And the lock and key, and we don't feel like in the morning see that you open your day by brushing your teeth. Number three, some amount of withdrawal will happen. So there are different ways. Either you stop your work for a week completely on the laptop and go through cold turkey, or you seek advice from your psychologist to slowly wean away from those games. Number three is if you're playing games along with people, some games are games along with people. It's so important for you to say that let me be away, allow him to be disconnected. And you feel that you don't sleep at all at night because you've been playing for a very long time, you're tired and exhausted. It's good to go to your doctor in your hospital at IIT and help you to sleep immediately and suddenly, so that you don't touch the game. There are various ways. I don't know you in detail. I don't know you as an individual, but the best advice is if you're really determined, let your body stop you after 5 hours, then for a week, and then 4 hours, then 3 hours, and then, or you see that Juliet or Debarati or Rajasi or others really sit down and talk to you. But the fact that you have asked this question, you have started your process, and a little exploration of your life would be important to customize the answers for you. But माँ कसम कहता हूँ यार, तुम्हें हिम्मत है पूछने की. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any more questions? So we think we don't have any more questions now. So I would just like all the students first to give their feedback. There'll be a feedback link posted on the chat box. Please do that before you leave. So that's a kind request. And then I would ask Devaki to please.
Sagar Soni wants to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yes,
Do watching a lot of movies or web series shift your focus? Because when I was in first year, I was like watching extreme, so much movies and web series, and those really
it
shifted my
causes
focus.
exhaustion. उसमें एग्जॉशन बहुत होती है, कंसंट्रेशन कम होता है, टायर्डनेस होती है, और ये इट्स आल्सो एन एडिक्शन इफ यू वॉच इट फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम. And so it needs some help seeking, and if that is affecting your sleep, your health, your appetite, and your joy, as well as your grades and your concentration, you need to do something about it. A lot of young boys and girls, they don't sleep till 3 o'clock in the morning, and that let me be very honest to you, you'll get destroyed by the age of 35, like others in the last generation got destroyed at 60s or 70s. You guys will get destroyed by the age of 35. Preserve your brain, preserve your sleep. Deprivation of sleep can shorten your lifespan. So do something about it, Sagar, immediately. This is the right time. Kayamat ka din hai. और जाके उसको सॉल्व कीजिए. और and I would say that you should watch movies. I'm not saying you should not watch movies, but till you draw your boundaries, till you're able to draw your boundaries, you need to see that you get help for yourself. Since I don't know you personally, I would not be able to give offhand answers for the same. So different people use different ways of stopping. Some people just stop suddenly, and they say they take an oath, they will stop and they stop. Some people need time and they slowly move off. Some people take substitute activities. I still remember this boy from one of the medical colleges. He said, I started watching Netflix and a lot of movies, but I found out that I used to play badminton in the evening, which I stopped. I used to meet people in the evening, which I stopped. COVID actually stopped me from meeting people, and that's where the reason was. When we addressed that reason, and he started his old activities, slowly he found that he could actually stop those things.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Before the student or Juliet gives my vote of thanks, I sincerely thank the Debarati, who's not there in the show, Juliet, Rajasi, and Shivam for also helping me with my Microsoft Teams. Thank you, all the faculties who are here, Professor Dang, Professor Sen, and Mr. Jha, and everybody. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, and namaste.